Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, other distinguished minister from the Kingdom of Lesotho, Gambia, Burkina Faso, Mali, the resident representative for UNDP in the Kingdom of Lesotho, distinguished government representatives, representatives of development of partners, representatives from the private sector and financial sector, and most importantly, youth from across the continent. Catholic Relief Services would like to extend to you a warm welcome to today's Policy Roundtable focusing on access to finance for rural youth entrepreneurs. My name is Bernice Shimwe from Catholic Relief Services, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session. As policymakers know, rural youth, both in Rwanda and across the continent, are a key demographic for fostering sustainable economic growth. They have skills and will to contribute to their communities and economies. However, barriers still exist in youth access to finance for their businesses, particularly in rural areas where the majority reside and earn their livelihoods. Gathered here today are youth, policymakers, private sector actors, and representatives of financial institutions to shed some light on the reality for rural youth entrepreneurs, their level of access to capital, the challenges they face, and explore some initiatives and innovative approaches underway to improve access to finance. So here's how we're going to proceed. We'll start with a few scene presentations to establish a foundation of insights on youth access to finance in rural areas, both in Rwanda and beyond. We'll start with access to finance Rwanda and then Catholic Relief Services. And each speaker will just give us a brief overview of the landscape from their unique perspective. And after that, we transition into our roundtable panel discussion, where we'll dive deeper into key questions, challenges, and opportunities with a diverse set of voices from financial institutions to youth leaders and then government representatives. From there, we will have a little bit of time for an interactive Q&A section with the audience. And then finally, we have our closing remarks. All right, speakers. Each of you has 4 minutes for your presentation. Please stick to it. Don't make me do the awkward job of cutting you off mid-sentence, because I would definitely do that if that will help us keep us on track. So let's start with Agnes Wanyirigira, Chief Programs Officer with Access to Finance Rwanda, to give us just an overview on rural youth access to finance. Welcome, Agnes.
Thank you, Bernice. If we could have a presentation, please. Ruben. Honorable ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is really a privilege for me to be able to set the scene for this very important discussion, where I will be sharing with you very brief, high level, as I was told, I only have 4 minutes, about FinScope 2024, Rwanda FinScope 2024. Rwanda FinScope is a survey, a national survey we conduct every 4 years to assess the financial levels of Rwandan adults. Continue. The 2024 FinScope actually showed that in Rwanda, 96% of adult populations are financially included. That include formal inclusion and informal inclusion, like financial, like saving groups, Ibimina, and similar channels. This is a very, very huge progress. From 2008, when we have, as a country, the first FinScope, where 48% of adult Rwandan were only those were included. So it's really a great progress. It's good to see a lot of young people in the room. Makes me feel very young. So thank you, the youth in the room. 44% of our population, actually adult over 16, we are young. And it's good to see many of them here. But a staggering 68% actually is in the rural areas. So we need to pay attention about those specific difference between youth and urban and peri-urban and those in rural area as we think about financial inclusion. When it comes to livelihoods, again, most of our youth are still relying on informal jobs and farming. But it's good to see, as you can see from this slide, that there's now youth are taking business, they're owning businesses, but they need finance if we want them to stay in those businesses, if we want those businesses to flourish. So again, how are we doing? Yes, 96% overall as a country, but how about youth financial inclusion? As you can see, there's still a bit of difference, 3% when you compare youth and average country financial inclusion levels. But it's good to also appreciate the fact that the exclusion levels among youth has really dramatically decreased from 13% in 2020 to 6% in 2024. Are we serving them better? What does that shift mean? Yes, the youth financial inclusion has increased, but where does that mean increase mean to their livelihood? As you can see, the shift in the financial inclusion overall change didn't translate into youth having access to formal financial inclusion, youth getting credits from banks. It was mainly driven actually by other financial services like mobile money and such. So that's food for thought. How do we ensure, as we increase youth financial inclusion, is translating into the services they need, what they need most? As you can see, again, from this slide we are showing here, although like the urban rural youth, they are more banked. I think that's kind of natural. So we need to be intentional. Knowing that urban youth are more banked, how do we intentionally ensure that those youth in rural area, they also have appropriate access to financial services? Are we serving youth with the credit they need most? We said, yes, we are happy we are starting businesses. We are happy even the financial education is increasing among them. Are we serving them properly? As you could see, 46% are not even borrowing of a youth. Half which is borrowing, which is getting credit, we are not getting it from banks and other formal financial institutions. We are getting it from family, bank of mom and dad. We are getting it from friends, from neighbors, but not from formal financial institution. We need to be intentional. We need really to pause and reflect and see why we are using Momo, we are starting business, we need credit, and we are not coming to formal financial institutions. As we reflect, I would like to end with this slide. Yes, we all know the key barriers, but as we reflect on FinScope 2024, with a youth lens, it is a reminder that we really need to be intentional. We need to put youth centricity at the core of all our financial inclusion efforts. At Access to Finance Rwanda, we have started the journey, and we look forward to discussing with all the Rwandan youth in this room about our Terimbere MSME support facility and other financial inclusion solution we are supporting with many service providers to help you address all these constraints we have seen in FinScope 2024. Thank you very much. Murakoze. Merci.
All right, we've heard that the focus shifted from financial inclusion to inclusive finance. Thank you, Agnes. You set the stage for what's coming next. Now, let's hear from Komo Chandra, Head of Program from Catholic Relief Services in Rwanda. She will share insights on access to finance among youth entrepreneurs, focusing on rural areas here in Rwanda and across other countries where CRS is making an impactful difference. Over to you, Komo.
Thank you, Bernice. Good afternoon, bonjour. It's a privilege for me to be able to speak in front of this distinguished audience. I will try and keep to time so Bernice doesn't interrupt me. So we try and keep this short. So I wanted to take a minute to speak about Catholic Relief Services. Why are we here? Why is this topic so dear to Catholic Relief Services? So we're the official humanitarian agency of the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, and we're present in over 100 countries across the world. Youth livelihoods and leadership is an agency priority for Catholic Relief Services. And in our agency strategy that we call Vision 2030, it is one of our 5 key strategic goals for the whole agency. As part of fulfilling this agency strategy, we are implementing proudly youth-inclusive and youth-focused programs in a lot of countries in Africa: Rwanda, Ghana, DRC, Kenya, Senegal, Tanzania, Benin, and a lot more. And in fact, we have colleagues from Catholic Relief Services from some of those countries present here and attending YouthConnekt alongside us. Sorry. In Rwanda, but also elsewhere on the continent, CRS has a long legacy of supporting and accompanying rural youth to strengthen lives and livelihoods using a systems approach where we are working to strengthen enabling environments around youth entrepreneurs and rural youth entrepreneurs. And expansion of access to finance is a keystone for making sure that we're able to strengthen the lives and livelihoods of the rural youth entrepreneurs, and is key to nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit of rural youth across the continent. So, as I was mentioning, we are present in a lot of countries, and we wanted to take a few minutes to just showcase some high-level observations that our programs are seeing around the continent. First, high interest rates, and they range from anywhere between 15 to 50% across the continent, perceived hidden charges to applying for formal finance, and strict collateral requirements continue to hinder access to finance. This is particularly the case for youth without substantial assets, and as we know, rural youth tend to have much fewer assets that they can lay as collateral when they go for formal finance. So these high interest rates and other constraints are particularly cumbersome for rural youth entrepreneurs. For example, in a study commissioned by CRS and Access to Finance Rwanda in 2023, alongside the Ministry of Youth and Arts of Rwanda, showed that 87.25% of youth in rural Rwanda said that they lacked collateral to access any sorts of loans or formal finance. Lack of information about existing products leads to a perception that there are no products. So even where products tailored for youth entrepreneurs and rural youth entrepreneurs do exist, information about these products do not reach rural youth, do not reach them on time, and do not reach them in a way that they can use to their advantage. And then finally, youth financial service providers, whether it's banks, microfinance institutions tend to consider youth as risky borrowers. We're worried that they will not pay back their loans. We're worried that they will leave. We're worried that they will change businesses. So there is a perception of youth being risky borrowers. And then limited financial literacy, as Agnes noted as well, makes it difficult for youth to navigate loan applications. And even if they do manage to get loans, to be able to manage their financial products and repayments effectively. So some more observations, but also some opportunities that we're seeing from our programming across the continent. We're seeing an improvement in overall financial inclusion for youth, including rural youth, and Agnes noted that in detail in her presentation just now. Mobile money platforms like M-Pesa in Kenya, MTN Mobile Money, Momo in Rwanda, are providing alternative financial access, which are free or at least reduced from some of the other traditional barriers that exist when it comes to traditional banking. Microfinance institutions like Sinapi Aba in Ghana, Fululu in Kenya, and community savings and internal lending groups in the DRC, who offer small loans and some saving options, are filling some of the gaps in formal financing options for rural youth entrepreneurs. While they don't allow youth entrepreneurs or rural youth entrepreneurs to increase the scale of their businesses, they do allow them to start and maintain them. Development partners, such as the MasterCard Foundation, are supporting financial literacy, mentorship, and sometimes even providing capital, thus empowering youth entrepreneurs across the continent. In Rwanda, the Business Development Fund is an innovative solution and holds a lot of potential for rural youth to receive partial loan guarantees, reduce collateral requirements, and increase financial access, thus proving to be an example that could be learned from and maybe replicated in other countries. And then we wanted to end on a little hopeful note. What are a few ideas for the future? First, and given the audience and the members in this at this roundtable, policy changes at the government level that subsidize interest rates, establish guarantee funds for youth entrepreneurs and rural youth entrepreneurs to reduce their borrowing costs and lighten the collateral requirements are key for any move forward. Expanding financial literacy. Expanding financial literacy programs within youth entrepreneurship initiatives that consciously target rural youth that are often left out of programming are key to making sure that rural youth who are able to borrow funds and then are able to manage and pay them back effectively and in a timely manner. The idea is to set up our rural youth for success for the future. And then finally, partnerships with mobile money providers and collaborations with community saving groups, like what we call savings and internal lending communities, are also key in bridging some of the gaps as we move towards this journey of inclusive finance and inclusive access to finance for rural youth. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze chane.
Great. Thank you, Kamad. Thank you for an overview of the challenges and opportunities surrounding youth entrepreneurs' access to finance in Rwanda and way beyond. Now, I think also Agnes and each of you for painting a picture of the current financial landscape for rural youth entrepreneurs and highlighted some of the key support mechanisms in place. Moving forward, we're going to our Policy Roundtable, where we'll explore some critical questions about rural youth entrepreneurs' access to finance. Then I would like to present our panelists today. I'll start there. We have Dieudonné Iradukunda, our youth entrepreneur, making a great job in food processing. Next to him, we have Emmanuel Mugabo, the acting managing director of Inkomoko Rwanda. And then next, we have Ms. Alice Kirezi, the head of investment and social impact at Equity Bank Rwanda. Next, we have Innocent Ozaramnyimana, Marketing and Products Development Officer at RIM. And then we have Gislain Kiziro, Marketing, Product Development and Partnership Manager at Mtangwa Finance Company. And finally, we have Ingrid Kyuzuzo, the Financial Sector Development and Innovation at National Bank of Rwanda. Thank you everyone for being here. As we go into the first question, a reminder to keep responses within 4-minute time frame. Let's keep this discussion just concise and impactful. All right, let's dive in. Dieudonné, as a youth entrepreneur, can you kick things off by sharing the specific challenges you and your peers, particularly in rural areas, are facing when trying to access loans from formal financial institutions? All right.
Thank you so much. My name is Dieudonné. I'm Managing Director of Youth Cloud Limited here in Rwanda. I'm a young entrepreneur from rural area. So according to the questions from moderator here, according to the point of view we have seen on the screen from CLIS and the access to finance, I don't go far away from them. So we, the youth from rural area, we have the big problem when you approach the financial institutions. The first one, we, the youth, sometimes we approach the bank when we need money to use. But in general, with the youth, you know that we don't have a land, our own land. We don't have some buildings. We don't have any items we can provide to the bank as collateral so that we can get such amount of money we need. Second, they told us high interest rate on such loan we need. So sometimes we leave without any answer from the bank. That is a big problem we always meet with as the youth from rural area. As you have seen on the point of view here, different youths, they have many business like farmers and the livestock. But those ones, the big number of those ones from that activities, they don't have a capacity building to start their business or to continue their business when they don't have enough money or the capital. That's why we need access to Finance Rwanda and the CLIS to join it together to look for some answers so that we can support the youth so that they can get a loan in an easy way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dieudonné, for giving us that inside perspective. It's a great segue to our next focus. Now, going to financial service providers. What do you say? How are you meeting these needs? And could you share the products that Equity offers specifically tailored to support rural youth entrepreneurs? Ms. Alice.
Yeah, thank you so much. True, these are challenges that are facing youth that are basically in the rural areas. And there is that specific challenge that youth in rural areas face more than those that are in urban areas. One, the customer base in in rural areas is so limited. The consumption power is so limited. The purchasing power is so limited compared to those in urban areas. So what we have done as a bank, one, we developed and designed youth-tailored products. What we do with those products is to define their need. We first did a scoping study. Thank God we have access to finance. They have done FinScope reports, and we are able to get information quite faster. Then reference to that and the existing literature, we said, these are the challenges. One, the challenges we have had with youth across the country, but particularly those living in rural areas, other than limited customer base, these people are limited to market linkages. So what we did as a bank, we develop financial products, but also come up with ecosystem products so that whoever is, for example, we have products of smallholder farmers under youth portfolio, we identify anchors. And we say maybe in Nyaruguru, in this sector, there are these value chains in agriculture, and these are the anchors. So we are able to go to everyone through anchors. For example, our anchors mainly are agri-dealers. And across agri-dealers, we are able to identify who are the production participants, who are the farmers at a production level, who supplies them with inputs, but also as agri-dealers, who takes their uptake. So we identify anchors in each value chain. And after identifying anchors, we have at Equity Bank specific department overseeing youth and women banking. The reason we have them is that after developing the financial products, but what do the futures speak about the challenges our entrepreneur is saying? What is the turnaround time? What we have also done is to identify who are the parties, who are the partners in this space that are empowering youth. I was expecting to find someone from BDF. We have partnership with BDF. They give us some collateral. But this collateral, I think, is now 75%. But even if it is 75%, a lot of our youth do not afford to raise 25%. So what we do as Equity Bank, we have raised the risk acceptance levels, and we are able to support our youth and forego the 25% to enable them to access finance at that rate. Something else that we do, we have a program for financial inclusion and enterprise development. Part of the problems our youth face in rural areas and across the country, there is lack of capacity building. So we accompany our loans with enterprise development programs. They lack financial literacy. Some of them lack digital literacy. They bring loan application forms with no business plans, no skills on how to manage debt. So our capacity building program is packaged in a way that we take them through enterprise development program. We teach them about business plan, saving and investment, even debt management. And even after they access our finance, we onboard them into mentorship and coaching program. We have seen this work for them, but still uptake is not as much as we want. They indicated that out of 18% that is banked, only 12% can access credit. It speaks to the problem of cost of lending in our economy. Generally speaking, financial institutions lend at 18–19%, and this is still very expensive for young entrepreneurs. There is not so much banks can do, particularly not so much equity can do, because this is related to the cost of deposits in the country. So we are still trying to see how we can secure partnerships that can buy down interest rates, that can de-risk our youth. But until we get there, those are the products we have. The collateral requirements, the capacity building, and something else as I conclude that we have at Equity Bank. we form associations of youth. We get out to the rural areas, put them into associations, and remunerate their savings. We try to incentivize them to invest and to do saving. So overall, that's the general, what we are doing at Equity Bank. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. As a youth, it's very important to know how we fit in and how important we are as an important reach or niche in your efforts. Thank you, Alice. Moving forward. Moving forward, let's hear from microfinance. Innocent, could you just walk us through what RIM has in store in terms of existing financial products for rural youth entrepreneurs?
Okay, thank you. First of all, RIM is a microfinance. Started its operational activities in 2004, and it has 36 branches. 25 out of 36 branches are located in rural areas. And we not left behind youth. We have a specific product for youth. We call it Zamuka. Yeah, Zamuka Rubyiruko is a product designed for youth that have some bankable businesses. They can use, they can form some small groups where we can use a mutual or mutual collateral. And even you can come as an individual youth. We can support you. And also we have a partnership with BDF. BDF can grant 75% for a collateral. So we also we can support youth to apply for a collateral in a BDF on behalf of our beneficiaries from youth. We also use a financial education. We conduct a financial education in different groups because we conduct those financial education in 6 up to 80 weeks. And we tell them to choose any day they want. So, and also in our mission, we there is where we mentioned that we support economically active poor groups. If we mention in our mission, of course we can support the youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insight. Shows how we're all pulling in the same direction. And speaking of alignment, let's turn to Gislain. I can see that you are chopping in a bit to expand more on what you have as Umtangwa, like what kind of additional support you provide for rural youth entrepreneurs in Rwanda. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, moderator. Right Honorable Prime Minister, honorable ministers present here. Let me start with an inspiration from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, where he says that for Africa's transformation to be truly inclusive, we must not leave rural youth behind. They are an essential force in the economic and social development of our nations. End of quote. That statement highlights our President's commitment to youth empowerment, especially in underserved rural areas, as a key strategy for Rwanda's inclusive growth and development. So we were not left behind. We were inspired by this statement and our nation's strategy to include the youth in everything, as putting the youth at the center of the development and inclusive growth. So we have conducted a market research, and we found out, like many other presenters before me, as they have presented, they found out that youth has limited financial literacy, collateral requirements, higher interest rates, irregular incomes, and those are just a few challenges that the market researches and feasibility studies that we've conducted have found out. However, we have found that our own solutions to the challenge of limited financial literacy, we found out that financial literacy programs that build youth capacity for financial management strengthens their business viability, and that increase the repayment capacity. Just to take you through that, we have our own financial education model, which we developed back in 2011 with UNCDF. It's a program called Youth-Start. Many African countries which were part of that program have witnessed that. It became like a change, a force of change, whereby we wanted the youth to educate the peer youth. As in, you don't take a youth-serving organization to train the youth. They do not have the same language. But if you take a young people, and go train another fellow young people, there you are creating something which is sustainable and for a long term. And for another solution that we have created, we have adapted a tailored youth loan product, which is, for example, adaptable financial product that match their cash inflows, because they do not, many of them, talking about the rural area, many of them depend on agriculture or agriculture value chain. So there we need to develop really a youth-friendly financial loan product which will match their cash flow, because not all of them get the monthly incomes as salary people. So that's a second solution. For another one was to offer them those flexible repayments terms. For example, give them seasonal, tailored to the harvesting of their crops. And another solution that we had was to have some partnerships. We have successfully partnered with the Access to Finance Rwanda in the thematic of youth, especially serving the unbanked, and UNDP as well, and UNCDF. So currently we are working with UNCDF with the loan guarantee for the youth, but also we do not leave behind BDF. So those are the solutions, and thank you very much.
Fantastic. I love how these microfinances are just adjusting the efforts to meet the needs of the youth. Thank you so much. Moving forward, Inkomoko has been breaking new ground, especially among youth and the women in vulnerable areas like refugee hosting communities. Emmanuel, I would like to hear how you're directly financing or funding rural youth entrepreneurs in Rwanda. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, at Inkomoko, as an organization, currently works in Rwanda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. Our model is in a way that we provide business skills to entrepreneurs, provide low-cost debt financing, and also access to markets. So over the period, for the last 12 years operating in Rwanda, one thing we identified in working with youth entrepreneurs, actually in Rwanda we have 12 program offices, and the capital is just one, so all the other 11 are really across the country, so we work with rural entrepreneurs. So one thing we identified is that I think talking about access to finance per se, there's need to talk about also business sustainability and viability. And so our model is in a way that we provide business skills in terms of training and also assign business advisors to the entrepreneurs that we work with, and then also grant low-cost debt financing and find a way of linking those businesses to markets. So in terms of debt financing, our motive is social return on investment, not to make a profit, and we source for low-cost debt. Currently, our interest rates are 10% in Rwandan francs, and we also put in place a revolving fund where as a business continues to grow, of course, funding is needed across the journey. So that in Rwanda currently stands up at about $8 million, and across the group, it's about $20 million, where businesses can continue. We have businesses that have borrowed, to the 5th cycle, 6th cycle, 8th cycle, so as the business continues to progress. Although, because we work with the underserved community, we do have a cap. The maximum amount that an individual entrepreneur can borrow is $50,000. So we understand there are other players. When a business goes beyond that, the other players that can take up that business. So what we've seen over the period is that the combination between providing business skills and low-cost debt financing, in terms of business survival, currently the businesses we work with, 85% of businesses do survive. And also because we work directly with these businesses, as in those areas, we have business advisors that really walk that journey with them. The repayment rates are at about 96% for the businesses we've worked with. So much as it's commonly said, maybe that youth businesses are risky, or maybe other sectors like agriculture and all that, but that combination of providing the skills, walking that journey, and also providing the lending has helped to show that actually the repayment rates can be better. Then the other thing is in terms of also the terms that we for some sectors, we do provide a bit of flexible terms in terms of like for instance agriculture, in terms of grace periods, and also not sticking to monthly repayment, but looking at the sector and be able to have more flexibility, maybe quarterly or otherwise. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I love that perspective. It's a great reminder. It's a great reminder of why we are here today. All right. Now to expand on that idea, let's bring Mrs. Ingrid into the conversation to hear from the policy side. Ingrid, please give us some context on factors driving high interest rates and what is being done to make financing more affordable and then accessible for rural youth entrepreneurs in Rwanda. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Bernice. I think the factors leading to high interest rates are many and they're diverse depending on what point of view you're speaking from. The fiscal policy factors, the monetary policy factors, but I don't think that's what is interesting people in the room today, right? We are looking at market factors that do affect a specific market segment, which is the youth. And I cannot put it better than people on the market, than the microfinances and the banks that have spoken today. They have spoken all about it, the collaterals, the capacity building and all of that. And it also made me wonder if we are probably not using conventional and traditional solutions to unconventional problems. It's not a mistake if we need to invest into low-cost funding, into capacity building, into collaterals, because that's what makes traditional financing, banking financing work. But if we have not been able to move from the 18% in Rwanda and whatever percentages it is in your countries, then it means we should look elsewhere. And as I was reflecting about this, I was like, none of the banks actually spoke about data asymmetry. None of the banks mentioned the issue that there are so many data points that we could leverage to get to know somebody's financial behavior and finance them based off of that. So as ecosystem partners, is there a possibility to invest into finding data points into high potential sectors that have high youth concentration? So what are those financial sectors in your countries that employ many youth? Once you've identified that, then you identify what data points in that ecosystem can I leverage to be able to finance based off. So that's the first thing I thought about. And then I thought about the issue of technology. In Rwanda, we have a particular testimony where majority of financial inclusion that we account for today is mobile money based. And then it makes me wonder what it is that mobile money provides that a bank or a microfinance is not providing. To me, I think it's, first of all, ease of access. You have a SIM card, you have an account. Simple. Second is ease of usage. I don't need to meet somebody intimidating in a suit to apply for a loan, right? I'll sit in the comfort of my business, in my home, and do it. So can we leverage technology to solve our own peculiar problems and not try to replicate what we've seen in other markets? So data and technology are 2 points that really came up because I realized that the traditional financial services are not going to do that. They'll do the best they can to solve for conventional issues. But what about we go out of those and find other mechanisms? So I don't want to repeat the guarantees. I don't want to repeat what is being done. I'm challenging ourselves around other avenues that are possible. Policymakers are working on open finance and open banking, and that's a great tool that if it customized to African problems, it can bring about great, great, great solutions. I want to touch on one last thing before Bernice cuts me off. 2 things, actually. When we talk about intentionality, what is it? It is about planning, really. It is about including youth in our strategic plans and policies, and be able to measure. M&E is very key to achieve whatever it is. So if you say you champion youth financing and you don't have the data, then you're not doing it, okay? Let's agree on that one. Secondly, research. Research is key, especially for designers of products and technologies. Research is key before design, but it's also key while deploying and after deploying so that you're able to reiterate. You don't design once, and when you don't do that, just remember you're designing for your conventional client, not your challenged client. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love that you spoke about an issue that is becoming thorny to the youth. Thank you so much for the panelists. All right, now in the audience we have officials, policymakers, and the youth. We would like to hear from you now. We just have like a little bit of time. We just hear like 2 questions. When called out, say your name and just shoot your question. No comments, just question. All right? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Should I stand or I'm fine?
Whatever you feel comfortable. Please direct the question to whoever you think is best to answer.
So thank you very much. My name is Daniel Shirima. I am from Kenya, representing the youths from there. I really love the conversation that we're having here in this room. And my question, I wanted to address it to Agnes, but it is open for anyone to address it. So in the conversation and in the room this evening, we're talking about how can we ensure that youths from these rural areas to have access to finances. But again, I'm looking at this situation in one point. All of us, the discussion has been revolving around offering youths loans. But my question is that the only thing that we are supposed to be talking about? I'm reflecting on the idea of, have we ever considered maybe offering the youths access to small-scale investors, or even networking them with angel networkers? Have we done that? If not, why are we not doing that? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can have like the second question real quick. Yes.
Okay, good day. My name is Lasisi Godwin. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a young public health professional and I represent youth groups. So my question is pretty direct and is in the light of the Sustainable Development Goals. We are fast approaching 2030 and we have 17 goals we want to achieve. Now looking at the issue of providing finance to young persons in rural communities, We are looking at lack of access to even the technological devices that lets them even be aware of the opportunities. So yes, these opportunities might exist, but what systems and structures are in place to have young people? Because I mean, the government cannot just wake up one morning and give free phones to everybody in rural communities. The government cannot wake up one morning and decide that, okay, yes, we are making 20,000 satellite infrastructure. So what community-owned initiatives are in place to ensure that yes, sustainable access, emphasis on sustainable, because we do not want one system approach, no one two-size-fits-all approach, sustainable access to financing for young people in rural communities, regardless of the access to technological devices and gadgets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe yes.
Thank you. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister and the ministers present, with the permission that I may have a few questions. The first one goes to CRS on BDF. How is it set up in terms of collateral? How is it set up so that you get success over the projects? And if I combine it, somebody on the panel talked about Samuka, and it seems like BDF is providing collateral. What are the actual requirements to Samuka itself? And the other question would go to the Equity Bank. You talked about the enterprise development programs and even coaching after you are funded. Does that substitute the requirement for collateral? I'll be as simple as that.
All right, thank you. Let's have like the last question. Yes, over there. For a more inclusive.
Good evening. I'm gonna practice my English, although we speak French in Mali. Honorable Prime Minister, dear ministers, we've heard a lot of interventions and actions towards rural youngsters, mainly in financing, capacity building, mentorship, a lot of, I will say, policies, initiatives that governments are putting in place. My question is to, I think, everyone here among the panel, but also to the two ladies who presented today. After all those interventions and actions, did we think of a follow-up mechanism of those rural youth? For example, in Mali, we had put a program with targeting 40,000 young rurals. And we, first of all, this program aimed to improve the investment climate around the area where the program was being put in place. Then we did all those work with the microfinancial institution to finance the youngsters. But then how do we measure the impact of all these actions? How do we make sure that the guarantees, the fund, the subventions that we are put in place, those are really working and impacting the youth? This is my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such thought-provoking questions. I hope everybody took notes. So we're going to start with a question addressed to Agnes. Thank you.
But what about the previous questions? Do we start with this?
Thank you for the question. From the youth especially. Do young people need just loan? Absolutely not. young people need financial solutions appropriate to them. For some, it will be loan. Even loan is different. It could be loan from a bank, or it could be loan from a microfinance. For others, maybe you just need a grant, a seed capital to test and succeed, or even test and fail. Someone would have at least help you to test your ideas, to know how you move forward. At Access to Finance Rwanda, hopefully most of you know about Access to Finance Rwanda, we are a not-for-profit, and our sole mandate is to support financial inclusion and financial sector development. Youth is one of the key segments. And one of the projects we currently have actually is encompassing most of those areas you mentioned. We know it has to be appropriate, and we want to put you at the center. Not just to set the percentage of youth we want to support, but actually to be intentional, even when we are designing. So we want to, if you're a business, a youth-owned businesses, we want to come to your businesses, not asking you to come to Access to Finance Rwanda offices. We want to go through your businesses to diagnose it together, to understand what your growth plan and what keeping you awake at night to reach your plan. Sometimes it may not even be capital. It may just be some entrepreneurship skills. It could be access to market. It could be networking, having information, learning from others. So the MSME Terimbere facility I mentioned is a comprehensive, and that's because we have learned from projects we have learned before, other project and intervention in the market, and we really realize they have to be holistic and have to be centered around you as an individual youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I noted 2 questions for CRS that I'm happy to answer, but I just wanted to add to the youth from Kenya that in addition to that, for example, at CRS, we agree that financial support and financial access is not the only thing a youth entrepreneur could need. Youth entrepreneurs, from our experience, need networking and need connection and need access to markets and need access to providers. And that is need access to mentors and peer-to-peer networking with other youth entrepreneurs around them. And that is something that the programs that CRS is conducting in Rwanda and elsewhere, we're trying to chip away at other needs as well, in addition to access to finance, and we completely agree with what you just said there. On the Business Development Fund, Honorable Minister, I just wanted to maybe clarify that the Business Development Fund is an initiative started by the government of Rwanda in 2011 that has the ambition or the aim to provide collateral grant facilities for women, for youth, etc. I admit that I am not the best person to answer that question, but we're more than happy to link anybody who's interested with representatives from BDF. So I might stop there, not the best person to answer that. From the Honorable Minister of Mali, again, we completely agree that we need to know what we're doing. We need to know what is the impact of the projects that we are doing, of the interventions that we're carrying out. So for example, with CRS, one of the things that we work with in any project, including projects where we work with youth and rural youth, is to build data flows where we can get information from the rural youth or our project participants to our project managers, to decision makers on a regular basis, whether it's through dashboards where we visualize how many youth have been visited, how many youth have had their needs assessments, how many youth have received coaching, how many youth have had follow-up visits. So that's one, creating a constant flow of data that allows us to know and visualize as much in real time as possible how the interventions are going. And then we regularly stop to assess the impact of what we're doing. We've just come off here in Rwanda, for example, an assessment of 48,000 young people that we're working with in rural Rwanda to see what is the impact so far of the interventions that we've been conducting. Are they working? Can we do better? Can we do more? Can we do less? And then we adjust, we speak to our stakeholders, we speak to other actors to see what is the data telling us so that we can all adjust and tweak our interventions to make sure that what the projects are doing are in the service of the rural youth entrepreneurs and are achieving the impact that we set out to achieve. We take your point and completely agree. Merci.
Thank you so much, Komod. Maybe we can move to Benair.
Thank you very much. I'll just support on a few of the questions, some that were not addressed specifically to whomever. So starting with the first question, I think I have to confirm that debt financing is not the only form of financing that supports youth. Equity financing is equally as important. I think today the debt funders have hijacked the conversation, but definitely agree with you. It's not just about debt financing. We need to think about our capital markets and how can they serve SMEs and not just look at large firms ready for investment. But also we could leverage other tools like incubation and acceleration and grants even to support youth financing. So just to agree with you that debt financing is not the only form of financing. Depending on the journey and the life cycle of a business, different forms of financing can be applied. Also, someone asked a question about the ecosystem and the sustainable development goals, and it's interesting how the answer is also in the question. It's an ecosystem, it's a partnership. For anything to function, I think we need about 3 layers of things. We need infrastructure, we need policy, and we need products. And none of that can be delivered by one ecosystem actor, neither by the government alone, nor by the private sector alone. So it was also in your question, it's an ecosystem partnership, but at every point in time, we have to reflect on whether we have the 3 components, the policies, the infrastructure, and the products. I think that's what I can contribute to the questions asked. For the terms of use of BDF, I think maybe the bankers who leverage it the most can explain.
Thank you very much. Really quickly, for BDF, it's a guarantee fund. Basically, it's to the youth who do not have collateral, but have some bankable projects. So how it does, like BDF do not work directly with a young person, a young entrepreneur. BDF works with financial institutions, whether bank or microfinances, and then they create that relationship. It's a kind of a tripartite. So like BDF itself, financial institution, and then a young entrepreneur. Now, that young entrepreneur approaches the financial institution, and then the financial institution with a project, of course, a bankable project. And then what we do is that after analyzing and finding out that the youth that do not have a collateral, we recommend that they write to us, to BDF, and then we take the project itself to BDF. Once the project has been approved, we make sure that, for example, as the colleagues previously said, it's up to 75% of guarantee. As in 20%, 25%, the financial institution is ready to take that risk, for example, or cover it with some other means. But you understand that it's not the youth that goes directly to that fund, it's the youth that goes to a financial institution, and then the financial institution links with that fund, the BDF. So that's how it works. It offers a guarantee of up to 75%. So when the youth has paid, we know that at least the youth will be able to repay up until to 75%, and that's where we can take the remaining risk, or to consider other factors or other assets that the youth can have on the disposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the panelists, the presenters, and the audience. Now, it's my pleasure to now invite Hans Fly, country representative from Catholic Relief Services to share some closing remarks and recommendations based on the discussions we had today. Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bernice. Before we close out this session, I just want to take the opportunity to thank once again our distinguished panelists, honorable ministers, the youth, and other stakeholders here who participated in this engaging discussion. In closing, improved access to finance for rural youth entrepreneurs requires a concerted effort across multiple stakeholders within working in the youth ecosystem, with government playing a critical role in providing a facilitative environment in collaboration with the financial sector. While short-term, one-off initiatives that provide seed capital to rural youth entrepreneurs can have a limited impact on business prospects, sustainability of rural youth businesses depends on reliable access to loan products that both meet the needs of rural youth businesses, entrepreneurs, and the financial institutions that provide them. These products must address the barriers mentioned earlier in this roundtable discussion, while also leveraging opportunities to create a win-win situation for this segment of the population and for the future of Africa. Catholic Relief Services will continue to make rural youth a priority in its programming across the continent and in collaboration with diverse stakeholders, providing equal opportunities for inclusive development. This takes the form of a facilitative approach, engaging with all actors to fine-tune solutions for last-mile service delivery, thus lending to greater sustainability. Several promising initiatives exist in Rwanda. We mentioned them, such as guarantee funds that could be leveraged and scaled in other African countries to increase rural youth entrepreneurs' access to capital. We commend the efforts of the Rwandan government, other African governments, and the many public and private sector actors we work with who are guided by the mantra that nobody should be left behind in Africa's development. Let's all join forces and align our interests as we work together to support the business leaders of tomorrow. Thank you for coming.